welcome back to another great episode of Secure Halt Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Denny Caballero, and today I'm joined by not only my newest puppy, but also Eric Bronner from Veterans Political Initiative. Eric, thank you for being here today. I know you are always working. You have a packed schedule, but I think your mission is one of the most vital missions that I came across when we first met during the MIC. So thank you for being here today and being able to share what you're doing to help others and our nation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, brother. And I enjoy furry friend visitors. So,
man, I think when I look back on my time in Iraq and Afghanistan, you always try to do these rallying motivational speeches to your guys, like, hey, you're all Iraqi, you're all Afghani, you got to come together as a team, you got to come together as a nation. And it never failed. It was always short-lived because there was so much infighting. Everybody hated each other. Oh, well, no, I can't work with him. He's Tajik. Or in Iraq, I can't work with them because they're Sunni. It's like, Jesus, man, like, you're a nation. You're one people. Like, you have to see. And I always said, oh, man, I'm so glad we're not like that in the United States. And I look back at that young man that made that declaration and say, you foolish, foolish boy. Like, we are that separated. And of course, I've seen it grown exponentially now, as I'm sure you have. It used to be that we wore these labels of Democrat and Republican, and it was just something like, oh, okay, I'll tolerate that. But now we're getting to a point where people are violent and react with so much hatred towards one another just because of a political view. And there has to be a different way. We have to understand, especially with our veteran and active duty service members, that there's no need for us to be used as a pawn in the political game, and be seen as people that have no value to the political spectrum or shouldn't have a say. So I really feel it's important for all of us to understand that we're not separated by politics. We need to be united and be a nation of Americans, not this label or this label. And it has to change.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, brother. And that's what we're working on with Veterans for Political Innovation. We're really trying to solve this toxic polarization crisis in our country that is underneath all the other problems that aren't being solved.
Yeah. It just seems like we're so focused, and it's easy to separate us and keep us at each other's throats while our government spins out of control.
Yeah, it can feel that way. And I want to be clear. Our work is founded on a book and some research called The Politics Industry. It's a business framing of politics as a very unhealthy, anti-competitive duopoly, right? And if we start with that as the framework, it's a bad system. So what we're doing with Veterans for Political Innovation, we are absolutely not attempting to use veterans as pawns in politics. We are working on nonpartisan reforms that will bring healthy competition to all of our elections. Healthy competition is something that all Americans should want in every single election, right? We would not settle for if we had only 2 fast food chains to choose from. Someone would say, this is terrible. These are 2 terrible choices. We need more competitors. But in politics, we're told over and over again, no, it's Coke or Pepsi. It's McDonald's or Burger King, no other choices. And we, the people, unfortunately, are divided by this media and politics industry who just wants to keep power and control. And that's what we're trying to change.
Yeah, that's I'm so glad you went to that. It's funny. I remember we were talking a while back, we connected on the fact that, people don't remember Ross Perot. People don't remember what happened during that election. And if they do, they view it as a negative point. well, if it wasn't for Ross Perot, we would have won that. And it's like, no. Like, it's not a bad thing to have competition. It's not a bad thing to have choices. And that's a dangerous thing that even now is being pushed. We saw it with Bernie Sanders. We saw it when he went up against the Goliath of Hillary Clinton. People loved him. Hey, it doesn't matter if you agree with what he stands for. If he is the majority for that party and he is everybody's guy, why is it all of a sudden he's removed from the competition? It's not this. It's not a fair playing field, and I don't see it. I don't see enough people talking about this. We just accept it. It becomes this weird dystopian idea that like there's a little bit of anger and backlash, and then it just washes away. And it makes me feel like I am living in a Twilight Zone episode where I'm like, hey, this is crazy, right? Like, this is crazy.
It's the definition of insanity, right? We keep doing the same thing over and over again. One of the things I say in our video is I'm so sick and tired of these false, heroic promises. Just vote for me and I'll solve all of your problems. You can't, because the system is broken. The system does not reward problem solving. The problem solvers in Congress, they lose their next election because of partisan primaries. It's become a verb. For people who don't know what a primary is, it's the first round of voting that determines 85% of our elections, and only 8 to 10% of Americans participate on each side.
Holy
so shit. 8% of eligible voters determined 83% of our last Congress. How can that be? Because districts are so gerrymandered, right? They've been turned into super Republican or super Democrat districts. There's no real competition in November, which is why we keep getting such terrible results. The only way we, the people, can hold our elected officials accountable is through competitive elections, but we don't have them. And I get so tired of all these really smart people who just all they care about is defending the status quo. You talk about Ross Perot. So I was a high school senior. I was too young to vote when Ross Perot came on the scene. Otherwise, I very likely would have supported him. I've been an independent my entire adult life. I've never joined either party. That's why I wear purple whenever I can. I'm not a milquetoast moderate. I have strong opinions on things. But look, 50% of veterans, according to some polls, 50% of veterans have never joined or identified with either major party. And we're treated like second-class citizens in our own American democracy, and that's a load of crap. There's 10 states where if you're an independent veteran like me, you can't even vote in your own public primary election because you won't register with a private political party. So in doing this work, Denny, and I know I'm going off here on a little bit.
No, you are the guest. You drive, you steers on this conversation because it's vital. It's important we talk about this, and you have the knowledge. So please don't apologize. You keep giving your message.
Our two biggest challenges in doing this work, where we are working on nonpartisan reforms and nothing else, are apathy and misdirected anger. So you talked about the tribalism that you experienced in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we unfortunately have this toxic tribalism in America, but it's fueled by the politics and the media industry that just wants to divide and conquer us for their own selfish gain, right? And so people get really mad, and they co-opt slogans like "drain the swamp" or "we just need more ballot boxes everywhere, and that'll solve all our problems." Those are false solutions. Nothing has changed. And so we get apathy, people who are like, politics is too toxic, I'm out, I don't want to touch it. And that's dangerous because we need good people to engage in a nonpartisan, unifying way. And then we have the misdirected anger from the 24-hour rage cycle, right? That how can I sell more ads and get more clicks? I just have to say something really stupid and really outrageous. And that's what sells in media and politics. So that's what everyone's doing, right? But what should really make us mad is that independent veterans, people who served their country in Iraq and Afghanistan, they come back and private political parties say, you don't get to vote in this state unless you join the red team or the blue team. That's a load of bullshit. And any politician that wants to close primaries, all they care about is their own power and their own control. So we're fighting for open primaries, fully open, meaning everyone's on one ballot in the first round of voting. Get rid of these stupid partisan primaries. That's the first way they divide and conquer us. If parties want to have their own private nominating convention with their own private money, go right ahead. But don't use my taxpayer dollars for a primary election that you tell me I can't participate in. That's what we're trying to draw attention to. And that's what, as you can see, gets me pretty fired up.
And I'm glad it does, because that is a huge thing. Like, the men and women that sign up and serve and go wherever they're told should have the right to come home and be able to participate in our election process without having to be forced to choose a party. Are you kidding me? Like, no, this is not right. It's not fair. But it's accepted. Nobody else is talking about it. Nobody else is saying like, hey, this right here is kind of fucked up. Like, this is some pretty fucked up shit, but it's happening. We identify with this idea that every service member must be a Republican. Absolutely fucking not. Well, then, well, if they serve in this type of job, they must be a Democrat because they're more tech savvy people. Like, no, absolutely fucking not. We are human beings. When we're born, and the doctor goes through and he doesn't hand off the baby to a mother, but like, congratulations, you have a Democrat. Like, that's not how it works. It's not what happens. Like, this is ridiculous. The fact that we can't look at our political parties and say, something's really fucked up. Something has gone horribly wrong. We need to do something to fix this.
Yes.
There's no reason why right now in 2023, we should be controlled as a nation by the news and by politics that are just trying to get emotional reactions. They're not trying to get us to talk and come to the table to discuss how we can end violence or feed and like take care of the homeless. No, everything is boiled down to anger, hate, and division. Why?
Yes.
Where did we go wrong? Where did this all? And when I look back in time, like, I can't pinpoint this. Like, in your studies, in your research, can you pinpoint or look back to a time where like, okay, this is where we veered off the path?
Well, and so we have done a lot of research, and there's some great books on this. There's one called Divided We Fall by David French. Ezra Klein has a book on polarization. And what a lot of these folks will talk about, Denny, is that up until about the 1990s in our modern politics, we had de facto 4 parties because there was a vibrant conservative wing of the Republican Party, a more moderate wing, and there was a vibrant liberal wing of the Democratic Party and a more moderate wing. And actually, the people that were a little bit more in the center were the ones that kind of were able to bring parties together and solve problems. They created a fulcrum that could solve problems. But with the rise of the media and everything being televised, what ended up happening is Congress just became entertainment, right? It was all about, and it still is. It's just about owning the libs or owning the Secretary of the Navy or whoever's testifying in front of Congress. All the senators care about is just getting this big gotcha moment so they can get more clicks and likes and raise more money, right?
Yeah.
So there's this this cold, what's the word I'm looking for? A perfect storm of the rise of media, our parties simultaneously being too weak and too strong, like too weak to do their own internal housekeeping, but they still control all the rules of elections. And it's just, we're in this moment where we need a new political innovation movement. That's what we're trying to build, right? So about 120 years ago, there was a reform movement, a political reform movement. People like Teddy Roosevelt from my home state of Wisconsin. There was Bob La Follette. He's known as Fighting Bob. He was a reformer, a progressive Republican reformer when there was such a thing. And he fought for the people's primary. So lots of cool things happened 100 years ago. Women were given the right to vote. Very important. Parties, we got away from the back rooms, the smoke-filled rooms where they would just pick the winners and the people had no say. So we moved things out into public primaries, which was a good step. But now the parties they weaponize their primary elections. And I just want to make this one point really clear. It's a structural problem. It's a systems level problem that we can solve. People in Congress don't care about really solving problems. Here's why: most of them don't. If they work in a bipartisan way, and then they have to go back to their home state of Florida to a closed partisan primary, they will be primaried. It's become a verb, right? They will be beaten by someone farther to the right if you're a Republican, or farther to the left as a Democrat. So the incentives reward people who are grandstanders, who just blame everything on the other side. And that's what we're stuck in, and that's what we need to get out of.
Absolutely. There's no politician right now that truly advocates for reaching across the aisle and working together. It's all about, I hate these people, and the labels are growing, and we're now and it's funny how the media uses it. The far right, the extreme far right, the libs. They're even using it to describe other governments and those political. And we have no understanding of the average American listening to the radio broadcast or watching it on the news or watching it on the internet has no real understanding of the government basis, but they hear their favorite talk show personality call this government representative far right. Then it's like, oh, this government's a far right extremist. He's a Trumper. It's like, dude, it's a whole different country, a whole different government. But now we're so used to using these labels.
Yes.
And you never see a news story where some representative like Boebert is reaching across the aisle to work with, somebody from the left. And it's always about, AOC. It's always about, and they have their political figures. They have their superheroes, AOC and Boebert. And these people but they're only talked about because they are so adamant that they will not talk or work with anybody on the other side.
Yes. Yeah. So our mission is making politics less toxic through real competition in all of our elections. And when we reward common sense problem solving through open primaries and then instant runoff voting, we will see a different type of politics. So what we're most excited about, Denny, and it comes from this book, The Politics Industry, that I keep mentioning, is it's called Final Five Voting. And we want to get away from the lesser of two evils. We want to get away from Coke versus Pepsi. And we want 5 candidates in November running on a level playing field. That's what we're pushing for. Alaska has adopted this model. Nevada is well on its way. There's bipartisan legislation pending in Wisconsin. I want to note, on a more positive note, there's 2 veterans in Congress who support Final Five voting. Mike Gallagher, a Marine from Wisconsin, and Chrissy Houlihan, a Democrat, Air Force veteran from Pennsylvania. They wrote the foreword to this book, and they said, look, we served on the same team. We served the same country. And now in Congress, we're told we can't even talk to each other. We can't be seen talking to each other. And they say in the foreword, the system's broken. It doesn't have to be this way. Final Five voting, it's not a silver bullet that's going to solve all of our problems, but it will fundamentally change the broken incentives created by partisan primary elections. And that's why they're excited about it. So we need to build a movement. We need to help people get smart on what are real solutions and what are the false solutions the parties want to present to us. And there's way too many false solutions being thrown out by both parties. And what's happening right now, for my right of center friends, like Florida has banned the use of ranked choice voting. Tennessee has banned the use of ranked choice voting. In Florida, the citizens of Sarasota voted to use ranked choice voting in 2007. 70% of Sarasotans wanted to use ranked choice voting for their own elections, and the state of Florida has fought them ever since.
Jeez.
That's a huge problem. It's silly. So we have a party that's trying to demonize ranked choice voting. Well, wait a minute. But the Republican Party in Virginia used ranked choice voting to nominate Glenn Youngkin and Marine veteran Winsome Sears, who won on the 7th round of the ballot at the Republican convention in Virginia, and they went on to win in their in a purple state. So this is not a partisan reform. I was in Texas. They're trying to ban ranked choice voting in Texas, and they love to bring up Alaska and Maine, where my right of center friends think that Republicans should have won for 2 congressional races, but a common sense problem solver won instead. And the right of center candidate was extremely unpopular in both places, but they don't want to own that. They want to blame the system, right? So we have an uphill battle. We have a lot of work to do, but we're just trying to fix the broken system. That's all we're trying to do.
And I think what we're losing sight of is, I don't care what party you work for, what party you are a member of. If you have, why can't we have somebody that's just a good person that has, because let's face it, at the end of the day, right now, the talent on both sides sucks. It just does. These people, there's very few people. Tulsi Gabbard is the rare exception. But very few people right now have in my opinion, the ones that we see on TV every single day. I'm not going to name names, but we see them on TV. And it doesn't matter to me if you identify as a Democrat or Republican or whatnot. We just need good people to be motivated enough and to be driven enough to run for office. And I see a lot of people that I'm 38 now, and oddly enough, I have friends that are starting to consider that. And my initial thought is, why would you want to do that? It's like, we don't have anything that incentivizes good people to partake in government anymore. It's seen as like, oh man, I really want to help my country, help my state, help my fellow Americans. But honestly, I don't want to be part of that system. It's just so gross. And how do we change that? How do we get out of that idea that it's not a hopeless fight? Like there's a way to get over it. And I think a lot of us, especially our veterans, are really tired. They haven't seen any progress. I know we're disenfranchised for one. We've just ended the war in Afghanistan on a horrible note, and then we get served Ukraine on this platter of like, well, we have to get in this fight. It's like, you didn't let us win this fight. Now you want to jump into another one. And hold up a second. Let's think about this. And now, if you're not for the war, well, and it's really crazy how now the majority of people that are like, hell yeah, Ukraine, that's the war we need to be on. It's like, holy shit. Like, you guys used to say that us, in the military were the ones always looking to fight a war. Like, you're a civilian. You're telling me that this is a just fight. Like, Jesus, like things are really flip flopping around. Like in this day and age, like it's gotten so confusing and so murky that identity politics has now become this thing where it's like, fuck, like this is a game no one can win. How do we change it? Like, how do we begin to make any sort of real lasting change starting today?
Yeah, we have to change the system. Right? I mean, all this time and energy focused on candidates and raising money for candidates, it's wasted because a bad system will beat a good person every single time. And we have a bad system that doesn't reward common sense problem solving. And so really like focusing on the system, right? And that's what Veterans for Political Innovation is all about. Will help get us out of the toxic tribalism. The super stacking of identities that you're talking about. It's actually now like interracial marriage completely accepted in our country, but inter-party marriage, there's like 60% of parents who are one party say, I don't want my kid marrying someone from another party. That's insane. To be clear, Denny.
It's funny you bring that up. I literally just had this conversation with a friend. It's like, it's sad. It's ridiculous that someone would have fear about revealing who they voted for in the current administration when they're going to meet their new in-laws. It's like, yeah, I can't talk about politics around, her family. It would really ruin things. I'm like, geez, it's
yeah. So look, things are here. I want to share some hopeful notes. We need to remember the industry thrives off of divide and conquer outrage. The reality is that Americans are not nearly as divided as the industry would have us believe, but the industry is responding to the 8 to 10% most extreme actors on both sides. That's who, and oh, by the way, I mean, there's this incredible poll from More in Common from 2018 and 2022 talking about the hidden tribes of America. And when you find out who the 6% most extreme on the right and the 8% most extreme on the left are, guess what? By and large, they're older white men, well-educated white men on both sides. That's who's tearing this country apart. Yeah, it's insane. I mean, honestly, Denny, so like the most educated group is the 6% on the far left. The second most educated is it's just, so the whole point is we have more in common, but this industry wants us to believe we divide and conquer, pick a team. I can't even tell you how many times I've been told, Eric, you got to pick a team. And to your point about good people not running, my college roommate, Clint Bruce, former Navy SEAL, played in the NFL for a minute, lives in Texas. He's been asked to run for Congress over 30 times. He won't do it as a Republican, and he sure as hell wouldn't do it as a Democrat. He would run as an independent if there was a path, but there's no viable path for independents or third-party candidates. So next week, I'm going to be in Austin for the Independent National Convention. It's for anyone who doesn't identify with the red team or the blue team. Come on out. We're trying to build a more organized movement, but to have power, we need fully open primaries and instant runoff voting. Why? Because Ross Perot, he was scoffed at as a spoiler, right?
Yep.
The dude was brilliant. He was a brilliant businessman who was trying to hold power to account. And both parties try to say he's the problem. He's just a spoiler for the other team. No, he's the guy with really good ideas who can't win in this stupid, broken duopoly. So we need to change the system. If we had instant runoff voting in 1992, most likely George H.W. Bush would have won that campaign. So this is not a partisan reform. For my Republican friends who think ranked choice voting is a tool of George Soros to make red states blue, which I've had legislators in Missouri tell me that. No, sorry, man. Is that the best thing you can do is pull out the George Soros boogeyman? Because it's just not true.
That's the most convenient. Well, I mean, he is leading the New World Order.
That's what a lot of people believe. And anytime there's something that people in Missouri don't like, they blame it on George Soros. I'm like, how many times can this guy be pulled out? I mean, he's really doing a lot of bad work in Missouri. I can't believe it.
He's worse than Palpatine. Star Wars reference. Had to throw it in there.
Right. Yes. So I've gone off on too many kind of long-winded things, but the idea, like Denny, I know you're really passionate about mental health and mindfulness, and both you and I have stories where like my family of origin was just wrecked by mental illness. There's big problems in our country that are not being solved. I mean, You name it, immigration reform, gun reform. I mean, there's things that people on both sides agree on, right? Like people want less violence in our country. Yep. but we don't reward problem solving. So like we will keep beating our heads against a brick wall if we don't change the system. And that's what we need people to get smart on is how do we go about changing the system? You got to go state by state. We need veterans and civic leaders and business leaders to say enough is enough. I'm sick of the two-party duopoly. I want fully open, nonpartisan primary elections, and I want instant runoff voting in November. So we don't have the spoiler effect. So we don't have the, you can't vote for candidate X because then you're going to really elect candidate Y, right? These are common sense reforms that both parties oppose. And that's why we know it's the right mission at the right time. And as a great president, our last third party president once said, right makes might. Let us have faith that right makes might. And in that faith, let us till the end do our duty as we understand it. So if your duty is protecting and defending the Constitution of this country, then I would really encourage and challenge you to get out of the two-party duopoly and get into the nonpartisan political reform space.
Absolutely. That's well said. That is the absolute truth. We can either complain about it, bitch, gripe and complain over and over and over and over again and just watch it happen. Or we can do what we've always done, be men and women of action and start getting involved. That's the thing that blows me away. Just recently, we had an issue where the Congressional Budgeting Office made a proposal. Hey, we found that we could save a quarter of the budget by cutting and gutting veteran benefits. Rather than writing your political representative, rather than taking action and doing something meaningful, calling, organizing, we want to share it and share our anger. Wow, look what they're doing. Well, it's not what they're doing. It's a proposal. So that's one. But you can take action. You can take action today. You can contact your representative. You can email them, write them a letter. You can take meaningful steps to show that this is important to you. Hey, you shouldn't do this. I'm an American veteran. So-and-so, you need to take a look at this. Make sure, come out and say something against this. But we would rather post about it, share it on social media, share it in a text thread and say, oh man, let's get angry. Where does that anger go? What are you doing with it? Look, you can sit there and be pessimistic and say, well, who's going to read the letter? Who's going to read your email? How do you think things grassroots movements work? People have contacted their representatives and made changes because when you already discredit your voice, discredit your action, you're just simply admitting to yourself that you're worth your voice doesn't mean anything. That your service, your actual life experience doesn't matter, and you're not going to give it any attention either. And you'd rather sit there in that space of being angry and upset for 10, 15 minutes and then let the news cycle bring something else on. So if you're listening to this episode and you agree or it resonates with you, you can take action today. You can take action right now in this moment. You can go online. You can contact representatives. You can look up Veterans for Political Innovation and get involved and contact Eric. You don't have to sit there and just be angry or upset. You can take action. And when you take action, it feels good because you know you're in control and you're living your life. You know that you actually have purpose and you're not just there to react emotionally to something that comes through social media. You don't have to do that. You can choose to stand up, go to your desk, go to your personal office at home, go to your bedroom, get your stationery out, dust it off, and start writing a letter to your representative and say, hey, my voice matters. My service matters. And I'm not represented by the left or the right. And I feel that this is absolute dog shit. And you need to change these rules because it's not right. If we don't take action, if we don't do something and stand up for what you believe in, we're all just going to be sitting here day after day, year after year, just complaining about the same things. And then we're passing that off to our kids and their kids and their kids.
Yes. No, that's a good word, brother. And taking action. right? Moving from just complaining. We all have power. We all have agency to do something. So the part where I think people get really stuck or frustrated when it comes to politics is, I know, you probably know many people too who are like, man, I tried this, I tried that, and no one listened to me, or the problem still exists, nothing's changed. You have people who've been working on immigration reform for 20 plus years, and they're like, nothing's changed. The border's not secure, and we still don't have a path to citizenship for great people. My mom was a German immigrant. We need immigrants in our country legally, of course, right? But our Congress doesn't solve these problems. So here's like my only kind of, this is a selfish thing, right? Let's take action at a systems level to fix the broken system and reward problem solving, and then go back to taking action on all the problems that aren't being solved, the national debt, veterans issues, right? Because Congress is not rewarded for problem solving right now. So it's it's a really frustrating loop when you engage in advocacy inside of a broken system, which is why we're advocating only for systematic reforms and nothing else. Like we don't touch candidates. We don't touch parties at Veterans for Political Innovation. We are a 501c3 nonpartisan nonprofit. So yeah, please get involved. We have 225 state leaders in about 40 states. We're only a year and a half old. This is a veteran-led, nonpartisan movement. We would love to have you and your voice as you go about your life. We're not asking for you to do crazy big things or take to the streets, or we have all hands calls once a month. Can you write an op-ed to your local newspaper? Depending on what state you're working in, we might have more specific things we're working on, but it's a veteran-led state-by-state movement, and that we'd love for people to be a part of it.
Man, that sounds like a great, neat little hobby. Maybe I'll participate. So I mean, that's the one thing that I always try to tell people: find something to get involved in. Find something to, give back. Like what else? I couldn't think. I mean, a great place to start. Like, get involved in your local community. And the great thing about this isn't, like you said, this isn't advocating for one veteran or one organization or one candidate. No, this is helping change a system that needs to change drastically. Because without it changing first, we're going to continue getting the same results we've already had. Lots of talk, lots of, man, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And it's just always, you're just replacing one person with the next and they have the same talking points. It's like they just literally hand the sheet over to the next guy in the party that's up for running. And it's like, hey, these are our points. This is what we want you to represent. And it's not going to change.
It won't unless we get involved. And I want to mention there are hundreds of really good nonpartisan or cross-partisan political reform organizations such as Unite America, Take Back Our Republic, Represent Us, No Labels. No Labels has this strategy to run a unity ticket in 2024 for president. Excuse me, they're looking to get ballot access in all 50 states, and both parties are coming out strong against them. Like, who are these guys? They're going to ruin. They're either going to get so-and-so reelected or so-and-so, right? And they haven't even started yet. There's the Forward Party is interesting because they support Final Five voting and nonpartisan primary elections. So there's lots of good organizations to get involved with. We're one of many, and we're bringing the veteran voice into this nascent nonpartisan reform movement that needs a little more energy, a little more leadership, and that's where veterans can come in and really help.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a lot of good people that need a lot of support. Because we can't make change by ourselves. We can't just try to take on the giant. So I'm glad to hear there's more people, more organizations like this. I did not know that. I did not know that. That is very reassuring, but it doesn't happen without you, the listener, the person listening to this. It doesn't happen without people becoming passionate And what it really, honestly, what I feel it takes is the same passion, same conviction you had going into MEPS to sign up, to enlist. It's the same conviction, the same drive that it's going to take for us to see more veterans become active and help drive change. I understand it. I didn't want to be brought into local government. I didn't want to do anything sort of, but at the same time, if I am not going to be helping or at least providing some of my time to help others change the system, like I'm not doing much, am I? I'm not really helping out. I'm just a willing participant in what's happening all around the world and in the United States. You're just letting the system continue to grow and get out of control. So if there's an organization that is doing something good within your local area, why not give them a shot? Why not reach out? Why not see how you can get involved? Because at the end of the day, it's going to be fulfilling in multiple ways. For one, you're serving again. Now you're serving in a capacity to your brothers and sisters in your local community, and you're actually participating in something that's bigger than you. And that's one of the key things in life that we are seeing right now. When veterans leave the military, they're going through a lot, mental health issues, financial stress. But the number one thing on top of all of that, it's identity. You're losing your identity of serving, of being of service to others. Holy shit. If I find a good cause, if I find people that are trying to make America better, trying to make the government work for us, hey, that right there can help you get that identity back. Because now you're not identifying with a uniform, you're identifying with your countrymen. Your country needs you now more than ever to stand up and be willing to do something. It's as small as, partaking in a virtual meeting and participating in your local area. Look into it, because it'll help you fill that gap, fill that void within you where you're like, man, I really miss being active, being part of something. And it's not as toxic as going and being part of a political party that's going to you have to wear this, or you have to identify with all these things to be part of us. I was like, I don't.
Yeah. And they're the problem. Just pointing blame on the other side is always the problem, and we're always the solution. It's like, yeah,
I don't know. And that's the thing that I realized when, not to get too off topic, but the way that we, on both sides of the political spectrum, the way we poach young minds, the way we're willing to reach out, and it made it, we're subjected to this idea that if you're an intellectual, if you're very smart, you're a Democrat, you're the white collar. If you're fucking rough and tough and you're a hunter and you're all these things outdoorsy and you like beer and sports, you're a Republican. Why is that? And that's a very clear thing that was always, at least growing up, it was very clearly identified to me at an early age that, like, the hardworking man, the man that pays his bills, the man that goes out there and works, that's a Republican. And if you're into drugs and you're into being a slacker and you're getting those high paying jobs, that's those Democrat kids. And it's like, wait a second. Like, why can't we just be human beings? Why can't I like what I like and do what I do and identify with whatever candidate represents me the best? But no, it's easy to sell us on this idea, because once you identify somebody as being X, Y, and Z, it's easy to just shove them in those categories. And that shit has to stop, man. It's so stupid. It's absolutely, that's the point where it's like, dude, I refuse to talk politics with somebody, because once they hear one side, then it's like, oh wait, so you're this? No. I'm also this, and this. It's like, oh, well, fuck, what are you? I'm a human being. I'm Denny Caballero. I'm a human being. I don't subscribe to just having to be one party. It's ridiculous. Like, at this day and age, we have to be able to see that the system is broken.
Yep. It's
not something we can easily repair. It's not like swapping out a bearing or a couple things. It's like, no, dude, like, we gotta take this down. We gotta break it down a little bit and reintroduce common sense to it.
Absolutely, man. The system is broken. Both parties present false solutions that are really about them maintaining power and control. Depending on what state we're working in, Democrats oppose us or Republicans. They use the same talking points. We need people from all over the political spectrum to say enough is enough. We need to fix the system as a first priority. Then we can get back to arguing about policy differences, right? But man, the demonizing, the dehumanizing, that needs to stop. And like electing people that are just big bullies who own the libs or own the other side. I mean, it's stupid, right? Like our politics has devolved to like a 7th grade middle school student council election is how our elected leaders of the best, strongest country in the world act like a bunch of middle schoolers, because that's what the system rewards right now.
Yep.
And we got to get away from that. I have 3 kids. I want to hand off a better country to them than the way that I received it. And that's why we're doing this work.
Oh, yeah. Eric, before I let you go, do you have social media? Where can we get more information, or is it just a website?
Yeah, we're most active on LinkedIn, Veterans for Political Innovation. It's a mouthful. So our shorthand is v-pi.org. v-pi.org takes you to our website. We're starting to build more social media. You have, 3 kind of middle-aged veterans running this thing right now. And man, I'm just never going to be on TikTok. I got to be honest. And
well, you shouldn't. Nobody should be on TikTok.
Yeah, I'm not very active on Twitter. Sometimes, Eric, you're so lame, like whatever. This is a movement that's spreading 1 coffee and 1 beer at a time, veteran to veteran, and we're building it around friendship. Denny, I really want to highlight this. Like 2 of our core values. One is we operate above the partisan fray. The other is we are playing the long game, and we know we'll be friends when our mission is complete. So we're really building this organization on a friendship level. This is not about using people, using veterans. Sometimes veterans organizations ask me, they're like, well, Eric, what do you even do for veterans? I'm like, well, how do you think the federal government's doing right now? Do you think the system's working well? No one thinks the system's working well. We're trying to fix the system. Is that not going to ultimately help veterans and everyone? But people scoff at me because we have the word political in our name. They're like, oh, we don't. I go to my local American Legion. We don't talk politics here. And then I have to listen to a bunch of old guys talk about conspiracy theories the entire time. I'm like, oh, you don't want to talk about making things better. You just want to talk about how broken everything is and not talk about solutions.
We don't talk about politics here. Now, let me tell you how they cloned Obama.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I was like, come on, guys. We can do so much better than this.
Absolutely. We can. And we have to remember, we've done the impossible before. We've been tasked with the impossible. Every SF guy I know, every soft guy I know had some point in their career they deployed. And when you go on those deployments, they're tasking you with the impossible, the most impossible fucking metrics. But you never say, well, this can't be done. We can't do it. You say, all right, fucking A, roger that. We'll figure it out. And you go do it. And guess what? You figure it out. Yes. If we're willing to take on the impossible in Iraq and Afghanistan, all over the world, why can't we come back here stateside to our own country, to our own people, and say, okay, the political spectrum is, bottom line, the situation is fucked. This is an impossible mission, but we're the people that can fix it. We can't because we've done it before. We've done the work before. We just can't use weapons. we got to be able to rely on our mouth, in our brains.
Our weapons have to be wisdom and intellectual honesty about what is a real solution and what is just false bullshit being sold to us by the politics industry and the media for more of their divide and conquer tactics, right? So we got to get smart on like what's a real solution and what's just false flag operation that's just trying to keep us busy and keep us divided. So yeah, but I love it, Denny. I love everything the good work you're doing. I'm so glad we met at the MIC out in Las Vegas last year. Hopefully I'll see you again out there maybe this year.
Absolutely. We'll be there. Hopefully be bringing a lot more to the crew, be able to bring more resources and advocacy work out in Vegas. It was a blast, man. We're going to definitely be keeping in touch, and anytime you want to come on the show, open invitation, brother. Feel free to bring anybody else on, because this is, you guys are doing phenomenal work and we need more people to get involved. So, if you want to know more about Eric and Veterans for Political Innovation, in this episode description, you'll see a link to their website. Until next time, thanks. We'll see you later.